Important role in making this very big reform go smoothly as something so significant can. So thank you. So EID is of course central to our biosecurity system. We've also, since a lower point in funding when we came to government, boosted our biosecurity funding in state budgets by close to $75 million. This is absolutely essential, and we had an incident just a couple of weeks ago with varroa mite in Victoria, and I heard the national industry representative on national radio saying that he thought it was pretty fortunate that this happened in Victoria rather than anywhere else in the country, because the response had been so quick and so effective. So, great credit to all of the people who work in our biosecurity system and with our biosecurity system. So sheep EID was a big one and a tough issue to tackle, and we also took the same approach to sort of get into something quite difficult with planning. And you will have seen recently the announcements around the animal industry's planning reform. So really, for anyone running a grazing operation, a very clear right to farm and a more streamlined system for smaller mobile producers who have a very different farming system and a lower risk profile, but a number of whom had been labouring under the idea that they weren't required to have a permit. So that will certainly be, I think, also a very important part of that reform. And you talk about responding to changing circumstances and difficult circumstances. And when just before the Premier spoke, when we walked in, you were hearing from the Bureau of Meteorology about longer-term climate predictions, which is of course essential information for anyone in this industry. Earlier this year, I asked that we add to the National Agriculture Minister's agenda a national strategy for agriculture and climate change. And it was, I think, probably fortunate timing in some respects. There's been a bit of a shift in Canberra on this, but all jurisdictions and the federal government agreed really readily to the development of a national climate change and ag strategy. And so Victoria, this is one of those things where everyone says, yes, that was your idea, you guys can lead that development of that work, which of course we're very excited to be doing and very pleased to be doing. So we will develop in Victoria the proposal that will go to the National Ag Ministers hopefully later this year and the first half of next year. But this is something that's not going to drag on forever and ever. The science is well known and understood, and we will get that ready for presentation and consideration for Ag Ministers. And we've had our share of challenges over the last 3.5 years, of course, responding to drought, and the Premier reflected on some of the heartache and heartbreak that we saw in the Wimmera and Mallee region in particular. We worked very closely with Adam and UDV through incredibly challenging times for our dairy industry. Of course, some of that uncertainty continues, and the financial recovery for your members still very much continues. A very difficult chapter, and more recently the St Patrick's Day fires in the southwest of the state, where people were caught very quickly by just unprecedented events and have required quick support. We're also keeping a very close watch on conditions in East Gippsland and providing advice and support to people who are experiencing very, very dry conditions. But the VFF has been a terrific partner for us, a great source of information, a great source of advice. We've had some excellent arguments as well, like in any good relationship. But so important, and a partner for delivering things from time to time, like look over your farm gate. And just a great source of advice. When I was very, very new in the job, I talked to Peter on a pretty regular basis, and we'd say, well, we're going to be, in this region. And he'd say, well, what do you want to do? And he said, well, can you just organise like a room full of people for me to talk to? And, we did a lot of that, and we still do, but particularly in the first year or so in the job, just being in a room full of people, hearing what they wanted to say to us and what they wanted us to focus on. And that's all been very, very important to inform our policies and our approach, because our policies aren't written in Melbourne. I spend as little time in Melbourne as I can get away with. But our policies and our actions are very much designed on the road, on farms, conversations. I spoke to a few people out here and got a whole lot more in the way of suggestions about what we need to be doing, meetings, cups of tea and conversations in the street with people. And there are a lot of great ideas and there's still a lot more to do and a lot to work on. So just to touch briefly on digital ag, sheep ID, biosecurity, energy planning and climate change, there's a whole lot of other things. We've just celebrated the first birthday for the Rural Women's Network, Mark II, it having been wound up a few years earlier, and it's really great to be strengthening the voice of women in this sector, scholarships and an advisory group on issues pertaining to young farmers. And I was very, very happy that we today were able to announce that for the funding to the National Centre for Farmer Health. It is a treasure, an absolute gem, and its future needs to be secured. Really, I'm very keen to take a few questions and to hear what it is, as always, that you would like to say to me and to us, but we're really all about working with you to create farms that are safe and profitable. We hear you loud and clearly on farm safety and the health of the workplace, and look forward to further developing together our thinking on that. But in 4 years, we've demonstrated a busy agenda and a very, very active approach to agriculture. I don't want to be, I'm much more interested in the issues than the politics. As always, but I'm kind of conscious that people will have a choice to make before the end of the year about what approach they want on a whole range of issues, including agriculture. I certainly wouldn't want us to be going back to those cuts to biosecurity and frontline staff that we had, and the moves that we've made on climate change, on new technology, are things that I would very much like to continue the momentum on rather than to have them stalled. So thank you for having me, and happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Joel. I've got a question that was sent in here.